Zhang.
Once upon a time, someone asked me, "Have you ever resented being Asian?" As much as I hated saying it, the answer was yes. I resented being Chinese when my marks at high school was attributed to my luck of being born Chinese. I resented being Chinese when I heard people roll their eyes at my mother's best attempts to communicate in her broken English. I resented being Chinese when I hear people berate the Chinese immigrants for coming here and taking all their houses and their jobs. But most of all, I hated being Chinese when I threw away my language and culture in a desperate attempt to try and conform with my Kiwi friends. But soon I realised I had no way of abandoning my Asian roots or escaping the stereotypes that people had designed for me purely because of the way that I looked. And so there I was, stuck in this weird middle ground where I was too whitewashed to be truly accepted into my own ethnic group, but also at the same time, I was being subtly excluded from this country that I'd called home for almost all of my entire life. And that is what hurt me the most, that I had no true way of fitting in. I'm sure I'm not the only person from an ethnic minority who has felt this kind of uncertainty as to what our identity is because of a little bit of casual racism. Now, don't get me wrong, I think New Zealanders are really, really lovely, but I know that casual racism isn't intended to harm or offend anyone, but it is like any other form of racism. It can marginalise, denigrate, or humiliate those who experience it without you even knowing about it. And where are you really from that you ask? You are othering people, hindering people's path to cultural integration by sending us the most subtle of messages about our foreignness in our society. It is strange to think that despite us being praised for our she'll be right attitude, perhaps this kind of relaxed stance is what prevents us from speaking out about it, from laughing off casually racist jokes, and for people like me who are afraid to voice our true feelings and fear that we will be mocked for being too sensitive. In those moments where we encounter little pieces of racism and fail to speak up for it are the moments where we passively agree to it and the kind of intolerance for it. To say that those are the moments in which we help casual racism grow into extremism is not an understatement. You all saw what happened in Christchurch a few months ago. It is definitely naive of me to say that we can completely escape racial prejudice, but I'm certain we can at least reduce the impact that it brings on our lives and our other prospective people. First, it starts with being more careful about the things we say, now that we are aware of what kind of consequences such trivial things can cause. Then it continues with filling every gap in our knowledge about all the different people that live in our community, by educating the next generation about the beauty of diversity and nurturing an environment in which people feel comfortable to express their individuality despite their appearance. By learning about each other, we begin to break down our ignorance about the world and discover that there is so much more to a culture, to a country, and to a person than what is portrayed by the media. By challenging our assumptions and seeking to understand people different from us, we set the grounds for connection, for empathy, and for love, which is what the foundations of our society should be built upon. Thank you. Oh, and also, I'd like to make a point of order. Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to table a document. The source is myself. It was part of my youth MP project where I surveyed the general population of students in the North Shore and asked for their opinion on what the Kiwi identity mean to them. And in there we have some proposed solutions as to how we can better improve cultural integration within that governments can implement and also schools can implement.
The normal practice within Parliament is not to allow the tabling of documents where the members are the sources, but having and they're normally ruled out by the Speaker. But having said that, Parliament does in the end set its own rules if everyone agrees. So in a slightly unusual approach, I'm going to put the leave to the House. Is there any objection to the document that Ms Zhang has developed being tabled? There appears to be none. It may be tabled. A point of order.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to move a motion without notice or debate to thank Parliament for the live broadcast of Youth Parliament 2019.
Is there any objection? Leave it. Leave us sought for that course of action. Is there any objection? There appears to be none.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House express its thanks to and appreciation to Chris Bishop MP, Melissa Lee MP, the Honourable Hene Harare, Minister of Youth, the Speaker, the Office of the Clerk for facilitating the broadcast of Youth Parliament this year. This is the first Youth Parliament.
Okay, that goes well beyond what would be normally in a motion. We'll stop it there, and I'm going to put the question to the House. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favour will say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. The ayes have it. The time for the general debate has expired. A point of order, Samuel Taylor.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to move a motion without notice or debate, thanking all those involved in Youth Parliament.
Leave is sought for that course of action. Is there any objection? There appears to be none. Samuel Taylor.
I move that this Youth Parliament express its thanks for the incredible hard work of all those who have made it possible for us to participate, including you, Mr. Speaker, our sponsoring MPs, the staff of the Ministry of Youth Development, the Office of the Clerk of the House and the Parliamentary Service.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. All of those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary will say no. The ayes have it. I would just like to respond on, because I've got the speaking rights on behalf of those people who were thanked, to say thank you very much for the enormous contribution that this year's youth MPs have made. You are a tremendous group of young people. At the question time, in the select committees, in the debate on the bill, in the general debate, in the reports that came in, we heard some speeches which were strong, they were heartfelt, and they were caring. And while I often say to members of this Parliament, they should set a good example to the people of the country and to the younger people, I think, in fact, if my message should be inverted, and in future I should say to the members in here, you should act more like the youth who were here over the last 2 days. Thank you all very much. Chanel Karluk will now close with a karakia.
Mr. Speaker, I will first korero mai.